This is Station Idol, broadcasting from the heart of what remains of Chicago. I'm Atlas, your beacon in the darkness, coming to you live on day 47 of the global insomnia crisis. It's 3:27 in the morning, July 15, 2026. For those of you just tuning in, welcome to another sleepless night in our new reality. Before we dive into the latest updates, let me give you a quick personal status check. I'm still here, still awake, still fighting. The coffee's bitter, the energy drinks are warm, but my resolve remains unshaken. As long as there's a signal to broadcast and people out there listening, I'll keep going. It's what keeps me sane in this insane world. Now, let's recap the situation for any newcomers or those who might be struggling to remember in their sleep state. 47 days ago, the world changed. People everywhere suddenly lost the ability to sleep. First, it seemed like a miracle. Productivity soared and people felt invincible. But after a week without rest, the cracks began to show. Hallucinations set in, tempers flared, society started to crumble. In the weeks that followed, we've seen the collapse of governments, the breakdown of infrastructure, and the loss of countless lives. The few of us left are desperately searching for a cure while fighting to stay awake and sane. It's a battle against our own biology, a race against time that we never asked to run. Let's start with a global overview. Reports from the few functioning communication channels paint a grim picture. New York City, once the city that never sleeps, has become a ghost town. The streets of Manhattan, usually bustling with life, are now eerily quiet. The only movement comes from the desperate soul searching for supplies or the occasional military patrol. In Europe, Paris has gone dark. The city of light is no more, with widespread power outages plunging the French capital into dark. The Eiffel Tower, once a beacon of hope and romance, now stands as a silent sentinel over a city in chaos. London fares no better. The Thames has become a graveyard for abandoned ships, their crews long since succumbed to exhaustion or mad. Big Ben, its clock face shattered, no longer chimes the hours nobody can sleep through. Moving east, reports from Tokyo are scarce, but satellite imagery shows large portions of the city in flames. The densely packed urban sprawl has become a tinder, with no one left to fight the fires that spread unchecked. In the southern hemisphere, Sydney's iconic Opera House has been converted into a makeshift research center. Scientists from across Australia have gathered there, working tirelessly to understand and combat the sleep crisis. But even their brilliant minds are dulled by weeks without rest. Closer to home, Los Angeles is a city divided. The wealthy have barricaded themselves in their Hollywood Hills mansions, while the rest of the population fights for survival in the streets below. The Hollywood sign, that symbol of dreams and aspirations, now overlooks a nightmare. Here in Chicago, we're holding on, but just barely. The Magnificent Mile is no longer so magnificent, its storefronts looted and abandoned. Navy Pier stands empty, its Ferris wheel frozen in time. Lake Michigan, once a source of joy and recreation, has become a vital lifeline, providing water for the survivors who cluster around its shore. But it's not all doom and gloom. Pockets of resilience have emerged. Communities have formed, people banding together to protect and support one another. In some areas, rudimentary systems of governance have sprung up, attempting to maintain some semblance of order in this chaotic new world. Let's focus on our local situation here in Chicago. I've received reports of several safe zones established throughout the city. The Art Institute has been converted into a fortress, its thick walls and strategic location making it an ideal shelter. Survivors there have organized a rotating watch system, allowing people to rest their eyes in short bursts without fully succumbing to sleep. Millennium Park, with its open spaces and access to water, has become another haven. The Bean, that shiny symbol of our city, now serves as a lookout point, its reflective surface allowing sentries to monitor a wide area for potential threats. On the south side, the University of Chicago campus has been transformed into a research center. Scientists and doctors work around the clock, pushing the limits of human endurance in their quest for a cure. If you have any medical or scientific expertise, they're always looking for volunteers. Now let's talk resource. Food and water are, as always, our most pressing concern. The good news is that Lake Michigan provides a nearly inexhaustible supply of fresh. However, purification is crucial. If you're near the lake, boil any water you collect at least 3 minutes before consuming. Food is trickier. Most perishables have long since spoiled, and canned goods are becoming scarce. Urban farming initiatives have sprung up across the city, with rooftops and parks being converted into vegetable gardens. If you have seeds or farming knowledge, your skills are invaluable. Pharmacies and hospitals have been picked clean of stimulants and sleep aid, the latter now useless in our sleepless world. However, other medications remain vital. If you require specific prescriptions, try the makeshift clinic set up in the old Cook County Hospital. They're rationing supplies, but doing their best to help those in need. In terms of recent incidents, we've had reports of increased activity from the group calling themselves the Dreamers. These fanatics believe that sleep is the key to transcendence and have been kidnapping children who can still sleep. If you encounter any members of this cult, do not engage. Report their location to the nearest safe zone and they'll dispatch a security team. There was also also a major fire in the loop yesterday, likely caused by an untended stove in one of the abandoned. The blaze spread quickly through several buildings before a volunteer firefighting team managed to contain it. This serves as a reminder to be vigilant about fire safety. In our exhausted state, it's easy to forget the basic, but one mistake can have devastating consequences. On a more positive note, a group of engineers has managed to restore power to parts of the West Loop. They've jury-rigged a system using solar panels and car batteries. If you have technical skills, consider joining their effort. Electricity, even in small amounts, can make a huge difference in our quality of life and our ability. As we move forward in our broadcast, we'll be diving deeper into the science behind this crisis, sharing survival strategies, and exploring the phenomenon of children who can still sleep. We'll also be discussing mental health in these trying times, because let's face it, we're all struggling to keep it together. Remember, listeners, in this new world of constant wakefulness, information is as vital as food, and stay tuned, stay alert, and most importantly, stay human. We're in this together, and together we'll find a way through this night. This is Atlas, your eyes in the dark, and I'm not going anywhere. Now, let's focus more closely on our immediate surroundings here in Chicago. As I mentioned earlier, we've got several safe zones established throughout the city, but the situation remains fluid and dangerous. I've received new reports about changes in these areas that you all need to be aware of. The Art Institute, which has been serving as one of our primary fortresses, is facing increasing pressure. The good news is that its thick walls continue to provide excellent protection. However, the bad news is that its very strength has made it a target. We've had reports of a large group of hostile insomniacs gathering outside, attempting to breach the defense. If you're currently seeking shelter there, remain vigilant. The watch system they've implemented is more crucial than ever. Remember, short bursts of closed-eye rest can help, but true sleep remains impossible and potentially fatal. Millennium Park, our other major haven, is facing a different kind of challenge. The open spaces that made it attractive initially are now becoming a liability. The lack of physical barriers makes it difficult to secure against intruders, especially as more people in the late stages of sleep deprivation begin to wander into the area. The Bean, while still useful as a lookout point, has become a point of fixation for many suffering from severe hallucination. Exercise extreme caution if you are in this area, and be prepared to relocate if necessary. On a more positive note, the University of Chicago campus on the south side has made significant strides in fortifying its position. The research center there has expanded its operation, converting more buildings into labs and living quarters. They've also implemented a strict vetting process for new arrivals to maintain security. If you have medical, scientific, or security expertise, they're actively recruiting. Just be prepared for a thorough screening process if you decide to join them. Now, let's talk about some new developments in our local resource situation. Water, thankfully, remains plentiful thanks to Lake Michigan. However, we're facing a new challenge. The continuous operation of improvised purification systems is taking its toll on the equipment. If there are any water treatment specialists or engineers out there, your skills are desperately needed to maintain and improve our purification methods. Remember, clean water is our life. Without it, our already precarious situation becomes impossible. Food scarcity continues to be a major concern. The urban farming initiatives I mentioned earlier are showing promise, but they're not producing enough to feed everyone yet. We've had reports of increased foraging activity in the city's park and even in abandoned lots. If you choose to go this route, exercise extreme caution. In our sleep-deprived state, it's all too easy to mistake a poisonous plant for an edible one. If possible, consult with someone knowledgeable before consuming anything you forage. There's been a troubling increase in raids on these urban farms. Desperate individuals, driven by hunger and sleep deprivation, have been attacking the gardens, often destroying more than they manage to take. If you're involved in one of these farming projects, consider setting up a watch rotation to protect your crop. And if you're in need of food, please approach these farms openly. Many are willing to share their harvest in exchange for labor or other resources. On the medical front, the situation at the makeshift clinic in Cook County Hospital has become critical. They're running dangerously low on antibiotics and pain medication. Any medical professionals out there, especially those with pharmacological knowledge, your expertise is desperately needed. For those of you requiring medication, please only take what you absolutely need. Our supplies are limited, and in this world without sleep, a minor infection or injury can quickly become life-threatening. I've received alarming reports about a new threat emerging in the northern suburbs. A group calling themselves the Sleepwalkers has been spotted moving through Evanston and Skokie. Unlike the dreamers I mentioned earlier, who are fixated on finding those who can still sleep, the sleepwalkers appear to be in the final stages of sleep deprivation. They move in a trance-like state, often mumbling incoherent, and have been known to react violently when disturbed. If you encounter any individuals exhibiting these behaviors, do not approach them. Keep your distance and alert others in your area. The power situation in the West Loop has seen some improvements since my last update. The engineer team there has managed to expand their jury-rig power system system, providing electricity to a larger area. They're focusing on powering essential services like water pumps and medical equipment. If you have any spare solar panels, batteries, or electrical components, consider donating them to this effort. Reliable power can make a huge difference in our survival effort. We've also had reports of a new safe zone being established in Wrigley Field. The iconic baseball stadium structure and open field make it a promising location for a large-scale community. A group of survivors has begun fortifying the entrances and setting up living quarters in the stand. They're actively seeking new members, especially those with skills in construction, security, or food production. If you're in the north side and in need of a community, this might be worth checking out. Just approach cautiously and be prepared to contribute to the group's efforts. Now, I need to address a troubling trend that's been developed. We've had multiple reports of individuals claiming to have found a cure for our sleepless condition. I cannot stress this enough. There is currently no known cure for the global insomnia crisis. These claims are invariably scams, often peddled by opportunists looking to exploit our desperation. Some of these so-called cures are harmless placebo, but others have proven to be dangerous concoctions that can cause severe harm or even death. Do not trust anyone offering a miracle solution. Our best hope remains with the dedicated scientists working tirelessly at legitimate research centers. On a related note, we've received word of increased activity around O'Hare International Airport. A group of pilots and aviation enthusiasts has been working to maintain a small fleet of planes, keeping them fueled and operational. Their goal is to establish contact with other survivors across the country and potentially bring in supplies from less affected areas, if any exist. If you have any aviation experience or knowledge about fuel preservation, consider making your way out there. Just be aware that the airport size makes it difficult to secure, so exercise caution. I've also heard reports of an underground net forming in the city's extensive tunnel system. These subterranean routes, once used for freight and maintenance, are now being utilized by a group of survivors to move around the city undetected. They've established a series of hidden caches containing food, water, and other supplies. While this network could be a valuable resource, it's also incredibly dangerous. The tunnels are dark, easy to get lost in, and could be deadly for those in advanced stages of sleep deprivation. If you choose to explore this option, make sure you have a reliable guide and a foolproof way to navigate. Let's talk about the Navy Pier for a moment. While it's true that the tourist attraction is largely abandoned, a small group of survivors has turned the Chicago Children's Museum into a sanctuary for the few children who can still sleep. They've fortified the building and set up round-the-clock guards to protect these precious few who haven't been affected by the crisis. If you know of any children who can still sleep, this might be the safest place for them. However, be prepared for intense scrutiny if you approach. The guards are understandably paranoid about potential threat. Now, I have a special request for any ham radio operators out there. We've been trying to establish contact with other broadcast stations across the country, but our efforts have been hampered by equipment limitations and the general chaos of our situation. If you have a functioning ham radio setup, please try to reach out to other frequencies. Any information you can gather about the situation in other parts of the country or the world could be invaluable. If you make contact with anyone, please find a way to relay that information to us here at Station 9. Before we move on to our next segment, I want to remind everyone of the importance of maintaining your mental health in these trying times. The constant wakefulness is taking a toll on all of us, and it's easy to slip into despair. Remember to engage your mind whenever possible. Read books, solve puzzles, have conversations with others. These activities can help stave off the worst effects of sleep deprivation and keep you grounded in reality. Stay strong, stay alert, and most importantly, stay human. We're all in this together, and it's our connection to each other that will see us through this crisis. Keep listening for more updates and vital information. This is Atlas, your beacon in the darkness, and I'm here with you through another sleepless night. As we continue our broadcast, let's delve into the latest scientific developments regarding our ongoing crisis. The global insomnia epidemic has baffled researchers worldwide, but they're working tirelessly to unravel this mystery. I've received updates from various research centers, including our own here at the University of Chicago, and I'll do my best to break down the current theories and progress. First, let's address the most pressing question. What's causing this unprecedented inability to sleep? The leading theory suggests that we're dealing with a disruption of the brain's sleep-wake cycle, specifically targeting the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus. This tiny region of the brain, no larger than a grain of rice, acts as our internal clock, regulating our circadian rhythms. Scientists believe that something has fundamentally altered the functioning of this crucial area. One hypothesis proposes that a novel virus might be responsible. This virus could potentially target the neurons in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, preventing them from signaling the rest of the brain that it's time to sleep. The rapid global spread of the condition lends credence to this theory. However, researchers have yet to isolate any new pathogen in the countless blood samples they've analyzed. Another theory suggests an environmental trigger, possibly related to solar activity or geomagnetic disturbance. Some scientists have pointed out that the onset of the crisis coincided with an unusually intense period of solar flare. They speculate that this could have had some as yet unknown effect on the Earth's magnetic field, which in turn might have disrupted our brain's ability to enter sleep state. While this theory is intriguing, it doesn't fully explain why some children remain unaffected. A more controversial hypothesis proposes that we might be dealing with a man-made problem. Some researchers suggest that a chemical agent, perhaps released accidentally or intentional, could be responsible for our sleepless state. They point to the suddenness of the onset and the global nature of the crisis as evidence. However, no traces of any unknown chemical compounds have been found in environmental samples, and the theory remains highly speculative. Regardless of the cause, the effects of prolonged sleeplessness on the human body and mind are becoming clearer, and the picture isn't pretty. The human brain requires sleep to function. During normal sleep cycles, our brains clear out toxins that build up during waking hours. Without this crucial process, these toxins accumulate, leading to cognitive decline, hallucinations, and eventually fatal brain damage. Moreover, sleep is vital for memory consolidation and emotional regulation. As we progress further into this crisis, many people are reporting increasing difficulty in forming new memories and controlling their emotional response. This explains the rising incidence of erratic and violent behavior we're seeing in our community. The physical toll is equally severe. Our bodies use sleep for cellular repair and hormone regulation. Without it, our immune systems are severely compromised, making us more susceptible to infections and slowing our ability to heal from injuries. Metabolism is also affected, leading to increased appetite in some and complete loss of appetite in others. Now, let's talk about the progress being made towards potential treatments or cure. While we're still far from a solution, there have been some promising developments. Researchers at the University of Chicago have been experimenting with targeted electromagnetic stimulation of the brain. By using precisely calibrated magnetic field, they've managed to induce brief periods of unconsciousness in tests. While this isn't true sleep, it does seem to provide some of the restorative effect. However, the treatment is still in its early stages and requires specialized equipment that's not widely available. Another avenue of research focuses on replicating the neurochemical environment of sleep. Scientists are working on a cocktail of neurotransmitters and hormones that mimic the brain state during sleep. Early trials have shown some promise in reducing the cognitive decline associated with sleeplessness, but they're far from a cure. The treatment also comes with significant side effects, including vivid hallucinations and temporary paralysis. There's also been interesting work done with cryogenic therapy. By lowering body temperature, researchers have found they can slow down metabolic processes and reduce the rate of cellular damage caused by sleeplessness. However, this method is risky and can only be used for short periods without causing other health complications. One of the most intriguing areas of study involves the children who remain unaffected by the crisis. Researchers are meticulously studying these children, trying to understand what makes them different. Initial findings suggest that there might be a genetic component to their immunity. Scientists are exploring the possibility of using gene therapy to replicate this resistance in adults. However, this line of research is in its very early stages and faces significant ethical and practical challenges. It's crucial to understand that while progress is being made, we're still a long way from a cure. The complexity of sleep and the mysterious nature of this crisis mean that there are no quick fixes. Anyone claiming to have a simple solution is, at best, misguided and at worst, deliberately deceiving people for personal gain. Now, let's discuss the long-term effects of sleep deprivation that we're observing. As we approach the 2-month mark of this crisis, we're entering uncharted territory in terms of human endurance. The longest recorded time a human has gone without sleep under normal circumstances was just over 11 days. We've long since passed that point, and the consequences are becoming increasingly severe. One of the most noticeable effects is the widespread occurrence of micro. These are brief, uncontrollable episodes of unconsciousness lasting from a fraction of a second to a few seconds. While these don't provide the restorative effects of true sleep, they are the brain's desperate attempt to force a rest state. Unfortunately, these microsleeps are extremely dangerous, especially for those operating machinery or in other high-risk situations. We're also seeing a sharp increase in psychotic episodes. The combination of extreme fatigue, cognitive decline, and constant hallucinations is causing many individuals to lose touch with reality. These episodes can range from mild confusion to violent outbursts. It's crucial to be aware of the signs in yourself and others. If you find yourself unable to distinguish between what's real and what's not. Seek help immediately. Another concerning development is the impact on our circadian rhythm. Even though we can't sleep, many people are reporting intense feelings of drowsiness and disorientation that follow a roughly 24-hour cycle. This suggests that our internal clocks are still trying to function, creating a constant state of jet. Some researchers are exploring ways to mitigate these effects by carefully controlling light exposure and mealtime. The physical toll of sleeplessness is also becoming more apparent. Many are experiencing rapid weight loss, muscle atrophy, and a host of other health issues. Our bodies simply aren't designed to function without the restorative periods that sleep provides. It's crucial to maintain a nutritious diet and engage in gentle exercise when possible to mitigate these effects. One unexpected consequence of the crisis has been its impact on pregnant women. Doctors have reported that the lack of sleep is causing severe complications in pregnancy. The stress on the mother's body is enormous, and there are concerns about the long-term effect on fetal development. Expectant mothers are strongly advised to seek medical care and close monitoring. As we look to the future, it's clear that we're facing unprecedented challenges. The human body and mind aren't designed for constant wakefulness, and we're pushing the limits of our endurance. However, the human spirit is resilient, and scientists around the world are working tirelessly to find a solution. In the meantime, it's crucial that we all take steps to mitigate the effects of sleeplessness as much as possible. Maintain a healthy diet rich in antioxidants to help combat the buildup of toxins in the brain. Engage in regular, gentle exercise to keep your body functioning as best it can. And perhaps most importantly, keep your mind active. Read, solve puzzles, engage in conversation. These activities can help stave off cognitive decline and keep you grounded in reality. Remember, while we can't sleep, we can still rest. Take regular breaks, practice relaxation techniques, and give your eyes a rest whenever possible. While these aren't substitutes for true sleep, they can help alleviate some of the strain we're all under. As we continue to navigate this crisis, it's important to stay informed, but also to maintain hope. Science has overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges before, and with the entire world focused on this problem, a breakthrough could come at any time. Stay strong, stay alert, and above all, stay human. We're all in this together, and it's our collective resilience that will see us through. Keep listening for more updates on the scientific front and other crucial information. This is Atlas, your guide through the night, always here, always awake, always working to keep you informed and alive in this sleepless world. Now that we've covered the latest scientific developments, let's focus on practical survival strategies. In this new world of constant wakefulness, adapting our daily routines and habits is crucial for long-term survival. I'll share some techniques that have been reported to help people stay alert and manage without sleep, as well as methods for dealing with the hallucinations that many of us are experiencing. First and foremost, let's talk about staying alert. While we can't sleep, we can still rest our bodies and mind. Establish a routine that includes regular period low activity. Find a comfortable, safe spot and simply lie down with your eyes closed for about 20 to 30 minutes every few hours. This won't provide the restorative effect of sleep, but it can help reduce physical and mental fatigue. Many survivors have reported success with meditation and mindfulness techniques. These practices can help calm the mind and reduce stress, which is particularly important given our current circumstances. If you're new to meditation, start with simple breathing exercise. Focus on your breath, inhaling deeply for a count of 4, holding for 4, and exhaling for 4. Repeat this for several minutes whenever you feel your mind becoming clouded or your stress level rising. Physical activity remains important, but be cautious. Our bodies are under extreme stress, so high-intensity workout can do more harm than good. Instead, opt for gentle exercises like stretching, yoga, or light calisthenics. These can help maintain muscle tone, improve circulation, and boost alertness without overtaxing your system. Hydration is absolutely crucial. In our sleep-deprived state, it's easy to forget to drink enough. Dehydration can quickly lead to decreased cognitive function and hallucination, exacerbating the effects of sleeplessness. Keep a water bottle with you at all times and set regular reminders to drink. When it comes to diet, focus on foods that provide steady energy rather than quick. Complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, and healthy fat should form the basis of your meal. Avoid excessive sugar and caffeine. While these might provide a temporary boost, the crash that follows can be dangerous in our current state. Now, let's address one of the most challenging aspects of our situation: hallucination. As the days without sleep stretch on, many of us are experiencing increasingly vivid and disturbing hallucinations. It's important to remember that these are a normal response to extreme sleep deprivation and not a sign of mental illness. One effective strategy for dealing with hallucinations is reality testing. When you see or hear something unusual, actively question whether it's real. Touch nearby objects, speak to others if they're present, or try to interact with the hallucination in some way. Often, this can help you distinguish between what's real and what's a product of your sleep-deprived mind. Some survivors have found success in keeping a journal of their experience. This can serve two purposes. It provides a record that you can refer back to when questioning your perceptions, and the act of writing itself can help ground you in reality. If you find yourself experiencing particularly intense or frightening hallucinations, change your environment. Also, move to a different room, turn on lights, or step outside if it's safe to do so. Sometimes a change in sensory input can help disrupt the hallucination. Remember, while hallucinations can be scary, they can't physically harm you. Try to approach them with curiosity rather than fear. Some survivors have even reported using their hallucinations as a source of creative inspiration, turning their experiences into art or story. Now, let's talk about food and water procurement in our new reality. As I mentioned earlier, our urban farming initiatives are crucial, but they're not enough to sustain everything. Foraging has become a necessary skill, but it comes with risk. If you choose to forage, educate yourself thoroughly on local plant life. There are several reliable guidebooks available at the Chicago Public Library's main branch, which has been converted into a knowledge center. Always forage with a partner and never consume a plant unless you are absolutely certain of its identity. Urban wildlife has become another potential food source. Pigeons, squirrels, and even rats are all edible if properly prepared. If you're squeamish, remember that in survival situations, we can't afford to be picky. Just ensure that any meat is thoroughly cooked to avoid parasite diseases. For those near bodies of water, fishing can be a valuable skill. The Chicago River and Lake Michigan both offer potential food sources. Simple fishing gear can be crafted from scavenged materials if you don't have access to proper equipment. Water purification remains a top priority. While Lake Michigan provides an abundant source, it must be treated before consumption. Boiling is the most reliable method if you have the means. Alternatively, you can create a simple solar still using plastic sheeting and containers. This method is slower but requires less energy. Now, let's address a grim but necessary topic: self-defense against hostile insomnia. As the crisis continues, we're seeing an increase in violent and erratic behavior from those in the late stages of sleep deprivation. While we hope for a peaceful resolution to this crisis, we must also be prepared to protect ourselves and our loved. The first rule of self-defense in our current situation is avoid. If you spot someone behaving erratically or aggressively, do not engage. Retreat to a safe location if possible. Remember, in their sleep-deprived state, they may not be fully aware of their actions or able to control them. If confrontation is unavoidable, try to de-escalate the situation first. Speak calmly and clearly. Avoid sudden movements or loud noises that might startle or provoke them. Sometimes, simply showing that you're not a threat can diffuse a tense situation. In cases where physical self-defense becomes necessary, focus on creating distance between yourself and the aggressor. Use whatever is at hand to create barriers. Remember, in our weakened state, prolonged physical confrontation is dangerous to everyone involved. For those looking to improve their self-defense skills, there are regular training sessions held at the former police academy. They focus on techniques that are effective even when you're physically and mentally exhausted. Lastly, let's talk about first aid in a world without functioning hospitals. Basic medical knowledge has become invaluable. If you have any medical training, consider sharing your skills with others in your community. For those without training, now is the time to learn. Wound care is particularly crucial. Even minor injuries can become life-threatening if not properly treated. Keep wounds clean and covered. Change dressings regularly and watch for signs of infection like redness, swelling, or unusual discharge. For pain management, we're largely reliant on non-pharmaceutical methods. Ice for acute injuries, heat for chronic pain, and gentle stretching can all provide relief. Some survivors have reported success with acupressure techniques, though results vary. Preventative care is more important than ever. Practice good hygiene to prevent the spread of disease. This includes regular hand washing, keeping living spaces clean, and properly disposing of waste. Mental health care is equally important. The constant stress and lack of sleep are taking a severe toll on our collective psyche. Regular check-ins with friends or community members can help. If you're feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to seek help. Many former therapists and counselors offering their services at community centers. Remember, in this new world, knowledge truly is power. Share what you know with others and be open to learning from those around. Our greatest strength lies in our ability to work together and support one another. As we continue to navigate this crisis, it's crucial to maintain hope and keep pushing forward. Every day we survive is a victory, a testament to human resilience in the face of unprecedented challenges. Stay alert, stay safe, and most importantly, stay human. We're all in this together, and together we'll find a way through. Keep listening for more survival tips and crucial updates. This is Atlas, your guide in the darkness. Always here, always awake, always working to keep you informed and alive in our sleepless world. Now, let's turn our attention to a phenomenon that has become a beacon of hope in our sleepless world: the children who can still sleep. This mysterious occurrence has baffled scientists and given rise to both hope and danger in our community. I'll share the latest reports, theories, and advice on this crucial topic. First, let's establish what we know. While the vast majority of the world's population has been affected by the sleep crisis. A small percentage of children, primarily under the age of 12, appear to be immune. These children continue to sleep normally, experiencing regular sleep cycles with no apparent ill effect. The exact number of sleep-capable children is difficult to determine, but estimates suggest it's somewhere between 1% and 5% of the global child population. Here in Chicago, we've identified approximately 200 children who can still sleep, though there may be more who haven't been recorded. Now, why is this happening? Scientists have proposed several theories, but none have been conclusively proved. The leading hypothesis suggests a genetic component. Researchers at the University of Chicago have been studying blood samples from sleeping children and have identified several genetic markers that may be responsible for their immunity to the crisis. Another theory proposes that the still developing brains of young children are somehow resistant to whatever is causing the global insomnia. This could explain why the cutoff seems to be around puberty, with very few teenagers retaining the ability to sleep. Some researchers have even suggested that these children might hold the key to a cure. The hope is that by studying their brain activity during sleep, we might be able to replicate this state in adults. However, this research is still in its early stage, and we must be cautious about raising false hope. The existence of these sleep-capable children has had profound effects on our society. On one hand, they represent hope, a living proof that sleep is still possible, that whatever has happened to us might not be permanent or universal. Their presence has given many people the strength to keep going, believing that if we can understand why these children are unaffected, we might find a way to cure everyone. On the other hand, this phenomenon has also given rise to new dangers. As I mentioned earlier in our broadcast, a cult calling themselves the Dreamers has been kidnapping sleeping children, believing that they hold some mystical power. There have been reports of desperate individuals attempting to harvest sleep from these children through misguided and often dangerous means. This leads us to the crucial topic of protecting these young sleep. If you are caring for a child who can still sleep, your priority must be their safety. Here are some key guidelines. First, be discreet. While it's natural to want to celebrate this miracle, advertising that your child can sleep may make them a target. Share this information only with those you absolutely trust. Second, establish a secure sleeping area. This should be a room that can be locked and, if possible, doesn't have windows. Consider setting up a rotation with other trusted adults to guard the door while the child sleeps. Third, be wary of strangers showing too much interest in your child. This includes people claiming to be researchers, government officials. Always verify credentials and never allow your child to be alone with someone you don't know and trust completely. Fourth, teach your child the importance of keeping their ability to sleep a secret. This may be difficult for younger children to understand, but it's crucial for their safety. Fifth, consider joining or forming a community of parents with sleep-capable children. There's safety in numbers, and you can share resources and take turns keeping watch. Now, let's address a difficult question that many have been asked. Is it ethical to study these children? The potential benefits are enormous. A cure for the sleep crisis could save billions of lives. However, we must balance this against the rights and safety of these children. Most ethical guidelines for medical research were not designed with our current crisis in mind. However, the basic principle still applies. Any research must prioritize the well-being of the child, obtain informed consent from both the child and their guardians, and not expose the child to undue risk. The University of Chicago research team has established strict protocol for their study. Children are only observed during their normal sleep cycle with no invasive procedure. Parents or guardians are always present, and the children's identities are kept strictly confidential. However, there have been reports of less scrupulous individuals and organizations attempting to conduct their own research on sleeping children. These often involve dangerous and unethical practice. If you encounter anyone proposing such study, do not engage with them. Report their activities to the nearest safe zone authorities immediately. Let's also discuss the psychological impact on these children. While they're physically unaffected by the sleep crisis, they're still living in a world turned upside down. Many are dealing with the trauma of lost family members, the stress of constant vigilance, and the burden of being different in a way that others desperately envy. It's crucial that we provide mental health support for these children. The Chicago Children's Museum, which as I mentioned earlier has been converted into a sanctuary for sleeping children, has established a team of child psychologists to work with their young children. They're developing strategies to help these children cope with their unique situation. One approach that's shown promise is pairing sleeping children with slightly older kids who can no longer sleep. These older children act as mentors and protectors, giving the younger ones a sense of security and the older ones a sense of purpose. If you're caring for a sleeping child, consider reaching out to trusted neighbors or community members to create a similar support system. Now, let's address a sensitive topic: the resentment and envy that some adults feel towards these sleeping children. It's a natural human reaction to covet what we've lost, but it's crucial that we don't let these feelings turn into actions that could harm innocent children. If you find yourself struggling with these emotions, remember that these children didn't choose. They're not responsible for our suffering, and targeting them won't solve problems. Instead, try to channel those feelings into positive action. Volunteer for research studies, help protect sleeping children in your community, or work on developing coping strategies that you can share with others. There's also the question of how this phenomenon will affect our society in the long term, assuming we find a way to survive this crisis. These sleeping children will have a vastly different experience of the world than their sleepless peers. How will this shape their development? Will they be better equipped to rebuild our society, or will they struggle to relate to the shared trauma of the sleepless men? These are questions we can't answer yet, but they're important to consider as we think about the future. Whatever happens, these children will play a crucial role in the continuation of our species and our culture. They are, in a very real sense, the guardians of normal human existence. Let's also take a moment to appreciate the resilience of these children. Despite the chaos around them, despite being targets of both hope and danger, many of them are showing remarkable strength. There are stories of young sleepers using their rested minds to solve problems and come up with innovations that help their community. They remind us of the power of the rested human mind, something we've all but forgotten in our sleepless state. As we continue to navigate this crisis, the phenomenon of sleeping children remains one of our greatest mysteries and one of our greatest hopes. They are living proof that sleep is still possible, that whatever has happened to us is not universal. They carry within them the potential for a cure, the key to unlocking the mystery of sleep. But more than that, they represent hope in its purest. In a world that has been plunged into constant wakefulness, they remind us of what it means to dream. They carry within them the memory of sleep, the experience of rest that we all long for. So to all the sleeping children out there, and to those protecting them, thank you. Your existence gives us strength. Your dreams keep hope alive for all of us. And to everyone else, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and above all, stay human. We're all in this together, sleepers and sleepless alike. Remember, if you have any information about sleeping children, especially if you know of any who are in danger or not receiving proper care, please find a secure way to communicate this to the authorities at the nearest safe zone. Your information could save lives. Keep listening for more updates on this and other crucial aspects of our ongoing crisis. This is Atlas, your beacon in the endless night, always here, always awake, always working to keep hope alive in our sleepless. As we continue our broadcast, I want to address a topic that's becoming increasingly crucial as our sleepless days stretch into weeks: mental health. The psychological toll of this crisis is immense, and it's vital that we discuss coping mechanisms for constant wakefulness, strategies for dealing with grief and loss, and ways to maintain hope in our crumbling world. First, let's talk about the immediate psychological effect of prolonged sleeplessness. Many of you are likely experiencing a range of symptoms: irritability, mood swings, difficulty concentrating, and memory. These are all normal responses to extreme sleep deprivation. It's important to remember that you're not losing your mind. Your brain is simply struggling to function without its usual periods of rest and recovery. One of the most effective strategies for managing these symptoms is to establish a routine. Our circadian rhythms are in chaos, but we can create artificial structure to help our minds cope. Set regular times for activities like eating, exercising, and resting your eyes. Even if you can't sleep, lying down in a dark, quiet place for an hour can provide some relief. Mindfulness and meditation techniques have proven particularly helpful for many survivors. These practices can help calm the racing thoughts that often accompany sleep deprivation. If you're new to meditation, start small. Even 5 minutes of focused breathing can make a difference. There are guided meditation sessions being held at several safe zones across the city, including the former Art Institute. Another crucial aspect of maintaining mental health is social connection. In our exhausted state, it's tempting to isolate ourselves, but human interaction is more important than ever. Make an effort to check in with friends, family, or neighbors regularly. If you're living alone, consider joining one of the communal living spaces that have been established in various neighborhoods. Now, let's address the profound grief and loss that many of us experience. In the chaos of the initial crisis, many people lost loved ones. Others have lost their homes, their livelihoods, and their sense of security. It's natural and healthy to mourn these losses. Don't try to suppress your grief. Acknowledge it and allow yourself to feel it. However, in our sleep-deprived state, grief can become overwhelming. If you find yourself stuck in a cycle of despair, try to focus on small, immediate tasks. Set achievable goals for each day, even if it's something as simple as organizing your supplies or helping a neighbor. Accomplishing these tasks can provide a sense of purpose. For those struggling with more severe depression or anxiety, know that help is available. Many mental health professionals are offering their services at community centers and safe zones. They've adapted their techniques to address the unique challenges of current situation. Don't hesitate to seek help if you need it. One particularly challenging aspect of our new reality is the constant threat of hallucination. As I mentioned earlier in our broadcast, these are a normal result of extreme sleep deprivation. However, they can be deeply disturbing and disorienting. If you find yourself experiencing vivid hallucinations, try to remember that they aren't real, no matter how convincing they may seem. Some survivors have found it helpful to keep a journal of their experience. This can serve as a reality check when you're unsure of what's real and what isn't. It can also be a way to process your thoughts and emotions during this difficult time. Now, let's talk about maintaining hope in the face of our crumbling world. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the disaster we're facing. The loss of sleep has upended every aspect of our society, and the future often seems bleak. But even in these darkest of times, there are reasons for hope. First and foremost, remember that humans are incredibly resilient. Throughout history, we've faced and overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. This crisis is unprecedented, but so is the global effort to solve. Scientists around the world are working tirelessly to understand and cure this condition. Focus on the small victory. Every day that we survive is a triumph. Every kindness we show to one another, every problem we solve, every moment of joy we manage to find, these are all victories against the darkness that threatens to engulf us. Look to the sleeping children for inspiration. As we discussed earlier, their very existence proves that sleep is still. They represent hope in its purest form, a reminder of what we're fighting to reclaim. It's also important to plan for the future, even if that future seems uncertain. Set long-term goals for yourself and your community. Whether it's establishing a sustainable food source, creating a new system of governance, or working on a creative project, having something to work towards can provide a sense of purpose and hope. Remember, too, that we're all in this together. The sleep crisis has erased many of the divisions that once separated. We're united now in our struggle and our humanity. The bonds we're forming in these difficult times may well be the foundation of a stronger, more compassionate society if we manage to overcome this crisis. Now, I want to address a difficult topic that many of you have asked about: suicidal thoughts. The combination of extreme fatigue, cognitive decline, and the seemingly hopeless nature of the situation has led some to contemplate ending their life. If you're having these thoughts, please know that you're not alone and that there is help available. First and foremost, remember that our perception is severely impaired. What seems hopeless now may look very different once we find a solution to this crisis. Your life has value, and your survival matters not just to those around you, but to the future of humanity. If you're feeling suicidal, reach out to someone immediately. There are crisis counselors available at all major safe zones. If you can't reach a professional, talk to a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. Sometimes, simply voicing these feelings can provide relief and perspective. For those who aren't experiencing suicidal thoughts but know someone who is, be prepared to listen without judgment. Offer support and help them connect with professional resources. In our current situation, we all need to look out for one another. Let's also discuss the importance of finding meaning and purpose in our new reality. Many of us have lost the roles that once defined us: jobs, family responsibilities, social positions. It's easy to feel adrift and purposeless, but there are always ways to contribute and find meaning, even in the most difficult circumstance. Consider volunteering at one of the community centers or safe zones. There's always work to be done, from distributing supplies to caring for those who are struggling. Not only will this help others, but it can also provide you with a sense of purpose and connection. If you have specialized skills, think about how you can use them to benefit your community. Are you a teacher? Consider organizing educational activities for children and adults. A musician? Music can be incredibly soothing and uplifting in these trying times. An engineer? Your problem-solving skills are invaluable as we adapt to our new circumstance. Even if you don't have specialized skill, remember that simple acts of kindness can have a profound impact. Checking on your neighbors, sharing resources, or simply offering a listening ear can make a world of difference. It's also important to engage in activities that bring you joy or satisfaction, even if they don't seem productive in the traditional sense. Read books, create art, play games, tell stories. These activities aren't frivolous. They're essential for maintaining our humanity and our sanity in the face of this crisis. As we navigate this ongoing disaster, it's crucial to remember that our mental health is just as important as our physical health. In fact, in many ways, it's even more critical. Our minds are our greatest tools for survival, and we must do everything we can to keep them functioning as best we can. So take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Practice compassion not just for others, but for yourself as well. We're all struggling, all doing our best in an impossible situation. Be kind to yourself when you have moments of weakness, despair. They're not a failure. They're a normal human response to extraordinary circumstance. And remember, even in this endless night, there is still beauty in the world. Look for it in the kindness of strangers, in the resilience of your community, in the quiet moments of peace you can find. Hold on to these moments. They are pinpricks of light in the darkness, reminders of what we're fighting for. As we face this challenge together, let's hold on to our humanity. Let's support one another, lift each other up, and keep hope alive. We may be sleepless, but we are not alone. We are a community, a city, a world united in our struggle and our determination to overcome. Stay strong, stay compassionate, and above all, stay human. We will get through this together. This is Atlas, your companion in the long night, always here, always awake, always believing in the strength of the human spirit. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of constant wakefulness. We must be each other's dreams of a better tomorrow. As we continue our broadcast, I want to shift our focus to a topic that's becoming increasingly crucial as we navigate this sleepless world: community building and communication. In these challenging times, our ability to come together and support one another may very well be the key to our survival. First, let's talk about the importance of human connection in this crisis. We're facing an unprecedented situation, one that has stripped away many of the social structures we once took for granted. Jobs, schools, social gatherings, all of these have been disrupted or destroyed. But our need for human interaction remains as strong as ever. In fact, it's more important now than ever before. Isolation can be deadly in our current circumstance. Without the natural breaks that sleep once provided, being alone with our thoughts for too long can lead to dangerous levels of anxiety, depression, and even psychosis. Regular human contact can help ground us in reality and provide much-needed emotional support. But how do we build and maintain these connections in a world where traditional social gathering often too dangerous? Many communities have found creative solutions. In several neighborhoods across Chicago, residents have established regular window times where people come to their windows or balconies at set hours to see and talk to their neighbors. It's a small thing, but it provides a sense of routine and community that can be incredibly comforting. Other groups have set up remote communication networks using salvaged radios and other devices. These networks allow people to check in with each other regularly, share important information, and even just chat to stave off the loneliness of our sleepless nights. For those of you who are part of these networks or thinking of setting one up, remember to establish clear communication programs. Set regular check-in times, use predetermined frequencies or channels, and have a system in place for emergencies. Clear, reliable communication can literally be a lifesaver in our current situation. Now, let's talk about forming safe groups and alliances. While large gatherings are generally discouraged due to the risk of conflict and the spread of disease, small, trusted groups can provide invaluable support and protection. When forming these groups, start small. Begin with people you already know and trust if possible. If you need to include strangers, take time to vet them carefully. In our sleep-deprived state, judgment can be impaired, so it's crucial to be cautious. Once you've formed your group, establish clear rules and expectations. How will resources be shared? What are the security protocols? How will disputes be resolved? Having these structures in place from the beginning can prevent conflicts down the line. It's also important to recognize and utilize the diverse skills within your group. Perhaps one person has medical training, another is good at mechanical repairs, while a third has experience in conflict resolution. By acknowledging and leveraging these different strengths, you can create a more resilient and effective community. Let's move on to the topic of resource sharing, which has become a critical aspect of survival in our new reality. The breakdown of traditional supply chains means we can no longer rely on stores or deliveries for our basic needs. Instead, we must turn to each other. Many neighborhoods have established communal supply centers where people can bring what they have and take what they need. If you're part of such a system, remember that transparency and fairness key. Keep clear records of what's coming in and going out. This can help prevent conflicts and ensure that resources are distributed equitably. For those of you with specialized skills or resources, consider how you can use these to benefit your community. If you have a large water purification system, for example, you might offer to purify water for your neighbor. If you're skilled at repairing electronics, you could offer your services in exchange for other necessities. Remember, in this new world, our survival depends on cooperation. The old systems of currency and commerce have largely broken down. Instead, we're returning to more basic forms of exchange and mutual aid. Now, let's discuss the importance of establishing reliable communication. In a world without internet or cell phones, we need to find new ways to stay connected and share vital information. Several communities have had success with creating localized radio networks. If you have experience with ham radios or other communication equipment, your skills are invaluable. Consider setting up a communication hub in your area. This can serve as a central point for sharing news, coordinating resources, and alerting people to potential danger. For those without access to radio equipment, don't underestimate the power of old-fashioned methods. Some neighborhoods have established runner systems where designated individuals carry messages between different areas. Others have set up bulletin boards in central locations where important information can be posted. Whatever method you choose, the key is consistency and reliability. Set up regular times for updates and checks. Make sure everyone in your community knows how to access and use these communication systems. It's also crucial to establish protocols for emergency communication. Have a clear system in place for alerting people to immediate danger, whether it's hostile group fires or other threats. This could be anything from a specific radio frequency to a pattern of whistleblowing. Make sure everyone in your community knows and understands these signals. As we build these new communities and communication networks, it's important to remember the value of inclusivity. In our previous lives, we often surrounded ourselves with people who were similar. Now, diversity can be a tremendous asset. Different backgrounds and experiences bring different skills and perspectives to the table. This diversity can make our communities more resilient and adapt. Make an effort to include and value all members of your community, regardless of their background or ability. Someone who might have been overlooked in our old world might possess crucial survival skills or knowledge in this new one. It's also important to consider those who might have difficulty integrating into these new community structures. The elderly, the disabled, those with chronic illnesses, all of these groups face unique challenges in our sleepless world. Make a conscious effort to include and support these individuals. Not only is it the compassionate thing to do, but you never know what valuable contributions they might be able to make. As we navigate this crisis, we're likely to encounter other groups of survivors. It's natural to be cautious of strangers in these dangerous times, but we should also be open to the possibility of forming larger alliances. Other groups might have resources or knowledge that could be vital to our survival. When approaching or being approached by other groups, proceed with caution, but also with an open mind. Establish neutral meeting grounds and clear rules of engagement. Start with small exchanges or cooperative efforts before considering any larger mergers or alliances. Remember, the more we can work together, the better our chances of surviving this crisis and eventually finding a solution. We're all in this together, and our shared humanity is stronger than any differences that might divide us. Now, I want to address a difficult but necessary topic: how to handle conflicts within your community. In our sleep-deprived state, misunderstandings and disagreements can quickly escalate into dangerous conflicts. It's crucial to have systems in place to manage these situations before they spiral out of control. Consider establishing a council or committee to handle disputes. This group should be composed of individuals who are respected within the community and known for their fairness and level-headed. Having a neutral third party to mediate conflicts can often prevent them from becoming more serious. It's also important to have clear, agreed-upon rules and consequences. These should be established with input from the entire community and should be applied consistently and fairly. Remember, the goal is not punishment, but maintaining the safety and cohesion of your group. In cases where someone's behavior becomes a threat to the community, having predetermined protocols for how to handle the situation can prevent panic and ensure a just response. This might involve temporary isolation, increased supervision, or in extreme cases, expulsion from the group. These are difficult decisions, but sometimes necessary for the greater good. As we build these new communities, we must also think about the future. Even as we struggle to survive day to day, we need to consider how our actions now will shape the world that emerges if we manage to overcome this crisis. Consider establishing systems for recording and preserving knowledge. Our current situation has made us acutely aware of how fragile our civilization can be. By actively working to preserve and pass on knowledge, we can ensure that even if the worst happens, future generations will have a foundation to build upon. This could take many forms. Some communities have established schools teaching children and adults alike. Others are creating libraries, collecting and protecting books on a wide range of subjects. Still others are focusing on preserving practical skills, ensuring that knowledge of farming, mechanic, medicine, and other crucial areas is passed. We should also be thinking about governance. Many of our old systems of government have collapsed, but we still need ways to make decisions and organize our efforts. Some communities have adopted direct democracy model with regular town hall meetings where everyone has a voice. Others have elected councils or leaders. Whatever system you choose, strive for transparency and fairness. The trust of your community is a precious resource, don't squander. As we face this ongoing crisis, it's easy to focus solely on survival. But we must remember that we're not just fighting to stay alive, we're fighting to preserve our humanity, our compassion, our hope for a better future. The communities we build now, the connections we forge, the way we treat each other, these will shape the world that emerges from this crisis. So reach out to your neighbor, offer help where you can, and don't be afraid to ask when you need it. Share your resources, your knowledge, your strength. Together, we are so much stronger than we are alone. Remember, in this world of endless night, we must be the light for each other. Our connections, our communities, our shared humanity, these are the threads that will weave the fabric of our survival and our eventual rebirth. Stay strong, stay connected, and above all, stay human. We will get through this together. This is Atlas, your guide in the darkness. Always here, always awake, always believing in the power of human connection and community. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this sleepless world, we are each other's dreams of a better tomorrow. As we continue our broadcast, I need to shift our focus to a critical topic: danger alerts and threat assessment. In our sleepless world, new dangers are constantly emerging, and it's crucial that we stay informed and prepared. I've received several urgent reports from various parts of Chicago, and I want to share this information with all of you. First, let's address the situation in the loop. We've had multiple reports of a large group of hostile individuals moving through the area. Witnesses describe them as heavily armed and extremely aggressive. They appear to be in the late late stages of sleep deprivation, exhibiting erratic behavior and violent outbursts. If you're in or near the loop, exercise extreme caution. Stay indoors if possible, and if you must move, do so quietly and stick to side streets and alleys. This group was last seen heading east on Madison Street. They seem to be targeting locations with known food and water. If you're in charge of any such resources, now is the time to secure them and hide any obvious signs of their presence. Moving to the north side, we have reports of a significant fire in the Lakeview area. The blaze appears to have started in an abandoned apartment complex near Belmont and Broadway, and it's spreading quickly. The combination of dry conditions and lack of organized firefighting effort means this fire could potentially engulf large areas. If you're in Lakeview or surrounding neighborhoods, be prepared to evacuate. Gather essential supplies and be ready to move at a moment's notice. For those of you near the fire but not in immediate danger, consider wetting down your buildings if you have the water to spare. This could help slow the spread of the flame. But remember, your safety is the top priority. Don't take unnecessary risks. Now, let's talk about how to identify and avoid dangerous individuals or groups. In our sleep-deprived state, it can be difficult to distinguish between friend and foe, but there are some key signs to watch out. Be wary of individuals exhibiting extreme mood swing or erratic behavior. While we're all struggling with the effects of sleeplessness, those in the late stages often become unpredictable and potentially violent. Look for signs of severe physical deterioration, extreme weight loss, uncontrolled tremors, or difficulty with basic motor function. These can indicate that someone is nearing their breaking point. Groups that appear highly organized and well-armed should also be approached with caution. While not all such groups are hostile, some have formed with the intent of taking resources force. If you encounter such a group, avoid direct confrontation. Observe from a safe distance if possible, and relay any information to your community. Be particularly cautious of individuals or groups showing an obsessive interest in children, especially those who can still sleep. As we've discussed before, there are those who believe these children hold the key to curing our condition, and they may go to extreme lengths to get their hands on. If you notice anyone paying undue attention to children in your community, alert your local security team immediately. It's also important to be aware of environmental hazards. The breakdown of infrastructure means that many areas of the city are becoming increasingly dangerous. Be on the lookout for unstable buildings, especially in areas that have seen fires or violence. The lack of maintenance has led to weakened structure that could collapse at any time. Water contamination is another serious concern. While Lake Michigan remains primary water source, there have been reports of toxic dumping in some areas. If you're collecting water, be sure to purify it thoroughly before use, regardless of its source. Now, let's address some immediate danger that have been reported in the last few hours. We've received word of a collapsed overpass on the Kennedy Expressway near Logan. This has created a dangerous situation, with jagged concrete and exposed rebar creating hazards for anyone trying to navigate the area. If you need to travel in that direction, stick to surface streets and give the expressway a wide berth. In the South Shore neighborhood, there's been an outbreak of what appears to be a highly contagious respiratory illness. Symptoms include high fever, severe coughing, and difficulty breathing. Given our weakened immune systems due to lack of sleep, this disease could spread rapidly and prove deadly. If you're in or near South Shore, take extra precaution. Wear masks if you have them, avoid close contact with others, and be vigilant about hand hygiene. We've also had reports of increased animal activity in several areas of the city. With human activity reduced, many wild animals have become bolder in venturing into urban areas. There have been sightings of coyotes in Lincoln Park, and even a couple of reports of a mountain lion in the western suburbs. While these animals generally avoid humans, in our weakened state, we could be seen as easy prey. Be aware of your surroundings, especially in areas near park or other green space. For those of you living near the Chicago River, be advised that we've received reports of contamination. Several industrial sites along the river have failed, releasing unknown chemicals into the water. Avoid contact with the river water and do not use it any purpose, even if purified. We're working on identifying the contaminants and will provide more information as it becomes available. Now, I want to talk about how to navigate high-risk areas. You absolutely must do so. First and foremost, never travel alone. Always move in groups of at least 3, with one person designated as a lookout. This increases your chances of spotting danger before it's too late and provides safety in numbers. When moving through potentially dangerous areas, maintain situational awareness at all times. In our sleep-deprived state, it's easy to become distracted or fixated on one thing. Make a conscious effort to regularly scan your surroundings, looking for anything out of place, potentially threat. Use all your senses. In many cases, you might hear danger before you see it. Unusual sounds, breaking glass, raised voices, or the sound of vehicles could all indicate potential threat. Similarly, pay attention to smell. The scent of smoke could indicate a fire, while unusual chemical odors might signal a hazardous spill. When possible, stick to areas you know well. Familiarity with the layout of streets and buildings can be crucial if you need to make a quick escape. If you must venture into unfamiliar territory, try to scout it out from a safe safe vantage point. Look for potential escape routes and hiding spots. Always have a backup plan. Before you set out, establish a rendezvous point in case your group gets separated. Make sure everyone knows the plan and agrees on when to cut losses and retreat if a situation becomes too dangerous. Remember, there's no shame in turning back if a situation feels too risky. Trust your instinct. In these uncertain times, it's better to err on the side of caution. I also want to address the importance of secure shelter. Your home base is your last line of defense against the dangers of our sleepless. Take time to fortify your living space as much as possible. Board up ground floor windows if you haven't already. Create multiple barriers between the outside world and your living area. The more obstacles you can put between yourself and potential intruder, the better. Establish a watch system if you haven't already. Even in seemingly safe areas, it's crucial to have someone on alert at all times. Rotate this duty among your group to prevent any one person from becoming too exhausted. Now, let's talk about emergency preparedness. In our current situation, a new crisis can emerge at any moment. Having a plan and the right supplies can make all the difference. First, establish a go bag for each member of your group. This should contain essential supplies that you can grab quickly if you need to evacuate. Include items like water, non-perishable food, a first aid kit, any necessary medications, a flashlight, and a weapon for self-defense if you have one. Make sure these bags are easily accessible and that everyone knows where they are. Create an emergency communication plan. Decide on a method for contacting each other if you're separate. This could be a specific meeting point, a message board, or predetermined radio frequency. Make sure everyone in your group knows and understands this plan. It's also wise to have multiple evacuation routes planned out. Don't rely on just one path out of your area. Roads can become blocked, bridges might collapse, or certain areas might become too dangerous. Having alternatives can be a lifesaver. Remember, in an emergency situation, every second counts. Regular drills can help ensure that everyone knows what to do when a real crisis hits. Practice your evacuation plan, test your communication methods, and run through various scenarios. This might seem like overkill, but in our uncertain world, this preparation could save your life. Lastly, I want to emphasize the importance of information sharing. In this crisis, knowledge truly is power. If you encounter a new threat or discover valuable information about staying safe, find a way to share it with your community and, if possible, with us here at the station. Your insights could save lives. Remember, while the world has become a more dangerous place, we are not helped. By staying alert, prepared, and united, we can face these challenges. We've survived 47 days in this sleepless. Each day we endure is a victory, a testament to human resilience and determination. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and above all, stay human. We will get through this together. This is Atlas, your watchman in the night, always here, always awake, always working to keep you informed and alive in our sleepless. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of constant danger, we must be each other's guardians and protectors. As we continue our broadcast, I want to turn our attention to the status of government and military operations in our sleepless. The landscape of authority and order has shifted dramatically since the onset of this crisis, and it's crucial that we understand the current state of affairs. Let's start with local government. Here in Chicago, the traditional structures of city governance have largely collapsed. Mayor Lori Lightfoot and most of her staff succumbed to the effects of sleeplessness within the first month of the crisis. In the power vacuum that followed, various factions emerged, each claiming authority over different of the city. The most organized of these is the Emergency Council, based out of the former City Hall. This group, composed of surviving city officials, police officers, and community leaders, has been attempting to maintain some semblance of order in the downtown area and parts of the north. They've established a rudimentary system of food and water distribution and have been coordinating what remains of our emergencies. However, their authority is limited and often challenged. They lack the resources and manpower to effectively govern the entire city, and many outlying neighborhoods have formed their own local councils or fallen under the control of other groups. In the South Side, a coalition of community organizers and former gang members has formed what they call the South Side Alliance. They've been remarkably effective at organizing neighborhood watches and distributing resources, though their relationship with the Emergency Council is tense at best. The West Side is more fragmented, with several smaller groups vying for control. The situation there remains volatile, with frequent clashes over resources and territory. At the state level, the picture is equally chaotic. Governor J.B. Pritzker and his lieutenant governor both fell victim to the sleep crisis early on. The line of succession quickly broke down as more and more state officials succumbed to sleeplessness or fled the capital. Currently, a group of state senators and representatives have formed an emergency state committee operating out of a fortified compound in Springfield. However, their actual power and influence are limited, with communication networks unreliable and travel dangerous. Their ability to govern or even contact much of the state is severely restricted. As for federal government response, information is scarce and often contradictory. The last confirmed communication from Washington, D.C. was over 3 weeks ago. ago, when a clearly exhausted president addressed the nation via emergency broadcast. Since then, rumors and unconfirmed reports are all we have to go on. Some say that key members of the government have been moved to secure underground facilities where research into a cure is ongoing. Others claim that the federal government has completely collapsed, with each state or region left to fend for itself. The truth, as is often the case, likely lies somewhere in between. Now, let's talk about military interventions and their effectiveness. In the early days of the crisis, military personnel were at the forefront response effort. They were crucial in setting up emergency shelters, distributing supplies, and maintaining order. However, as the sleepless days wore on, the military faced the same challenges as the rest. Soldiers, sailors, and airmen are just as susceptible to the effects of sleep deprivation as civilians. Many military units broke down as their members succumbed to exhaustion and psychosis. That said, there are still pockets of military activity. We've had reports of Navy ships docked at Great Lakes Naval Station, their crews rotating in short shifts in an attempt to maintain readiness. There have also been sightings of military aircraft, presumably on reconnaissance or supply missions. Here in Chicago, a group of National Guard members have joined forces with the Emergency Council. They've been instrumental in securing key infrastructure and resources. However, their numbers are limited and they're stretched thin trying to cover the entire city. There have also been troubling reports of rogue military units. Some soldiers, driven to desperation by sleeplessness, have broken away from the chain of command and formed their own faction. These groups, armed with military-grade weapons and training, pose a significant. If you encounter anyone claiming to be military personnel, exercise extreme caution and verify their credentials. As for international cooperation or lack thereof, information is limited. In the early stages of the crisis, there were attempts at a coordinated global response. The United Nations convened an emergency session, and various international aid organizations mobilized to help affected areas. However, as the crisis deepened and spread to every corner of the globe, these efforts largely failed. Each nation turned inward, focusing on their own survival. Border closures became common and international travel ground to a halt. The last reports we received indicated that some countries were faring better than others. Island nations, able to more effectively control their borders, seemed to have a slight advantage. There were also unconfirmed reports of a few remote communities, particularly in mountainous or jungle regions, that appeared to be unaffected by the sleep crisis. However, verifying this information has been impossible. One of the most significant impacts of this breakdown in international cooperation has been on global supply chain. We're no longer receiving shipments of food, medicine, or other crucial supplies from overseas. This has forced us to rely entirely on local resources, putting additional strain on our already stressed system. Now, let's discuss the impact of all this on law and order. The collapse of traditional government structure and the widespread effects of sleep deprivation have led to a breakdown of the legal system as we knew it. In many areas, including large parts of Chicago, the concept of law enforcement has become fluid and situational. The police force, like all other groups, has been decimated by the sleep crisis. Those officers who remain are often working with neighborhood watch group or other community organizations to maintain some semblance of order. The Emergency Council has attempted to establish a basic legal framework focusing on essential rules to maintain public safety and resource distribution. However, enforcement is inconsistent at best. In many cases, communities have resorted to their own forms of justice, ranging from informal mediations to more severe punishments for those who threaten group survival. The court system has essentially ceased to function, with no judges, lawyers, or support staff available, and more pressing survival concerns at hand. Formal legal proceedings have become a luxury we can no longer afford. This breakdown of law and order has led to some troubling developments. In some areas, might has become right, with the strongest, best-armed groups imposing their will on others. We've had reports of forced labor, resource hoarding, and other abuses of power. However, it's not all bleak. Many communities have risen to the challenge, creating new systems of governance and conflict resolution that, while informal, based on principles of fairness and the common good. These grassroots efforts give us hope that even in the absence of traditional authority, we can find ways to live together and resolve our differences peacefully. Looking ahead, it's clear that our concepts of government and authority will need to evolve to meet the challenges of our new reality. The old systems, designed for a world with regular sleep cycles and stable infrastructure, are no longer sufficient. We need to think creatively about how to organize ourselves, how to make and enforce rules, and how to resolve conflicts in a world where everyone is operating under extreme stress and cognitive impairment. This is an opportunity to create new forms of governance that are more responsive, more inclusive, and better suited to our current needs. For those of you in positions of leadership, whether in formal roles or as respected members of your communities, this is a call to action. We need to start discussions about what kind of society we want to build out of this crisis. How can we ensure fair distribution of resources? How do we protect the vulnerable? How do we balance individual rights with community needs? needs? These are challenging questions, but they're also an opportunity. In the midst of this crisis, we have the chance to reshape our society, to build something that might be more sustainable and more resilient than what came before. To all listeners, I encourage you to get involved in these discussions in your community. Your voice, your ideas, your experiences, all of these are valuable as we try to navigate this new. Don't assume that because the old power structures have fallen, your opinion doesn't matter. In fact, it may matter more now than ever before. Remember, in the absence of sleep, in the face of this unprecedented crisis, we are all equal. We all face the same challenge, the same fears, the same daily struggle for survival. This shared experience can be the foundation for a new kind of society, one built on mutual understanding and cooperation. As we move forward, let's try to hold on to the best parts of our old systems while being open to new ideas and approaches. Let's remember the principles of justice, equality, and human rights that were the ideal, if not always the reality, of our previous government. But let's also be willing to adapt, to find new ways of implementing these principles in our change. In the coming days and weeks, we'll be discussing various models of community organization and governance that have emerged in different parts of the city and beyond. We'll explore their strengths and weaknesses and consider how they might be adapted or improved. I encourage you all to listen, to think critically, and to engage in these discussions within your own community. For now, stay safe, stay alert, and above all, stay human. We may be without sleep, but we are not without hope. Together, we can build a new kind of order from this chaos. This is Atlas, your voice in the darkness. Always here, always awake, always working to keep you informed and inspired in our sleepless world. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world without traditional authority, we must be our own leaders, our own peacekeepers, our own agents of positive change. As we continue our broadcast, I want to focus on a topic that gives us reason for hope: the signs of adaptation and resilience we're seeing in our community. Despite the overwhelming challenges we face, humanity is proving once again its remarkable ability to adapt and overcome. Let's start with the physiological adaptations we're observing. While the human body isn't designed for constant wakefulness, we're seeing evidence that some individuals are developing coping mechanisms. Reports from medical professionals suggest that a small percentage of people are entering states of consciousness that, while not true sleep, allow for some degree of mental and physical recuperation. These states, which some are calling micro-REM, involve brief periods of reduced brain activity. During these episodes, which typically last only a few seconds to a minute, individuals appear to be in a trance-like state. They're not fully unconscious, but they're not fully aware either. Interestingly, people experiencing these micro-rests often report feeling slightly refreshed after. Dr. Emily Chun, a neurologist working with the University of Chicago research team, hypothesizes that these micro-rests might be our brain's attempt to perform some of the essential functions of sleep while still maintaining consciousness. While it's not a solution to our crisis, it could be an evolutionary adaptation that might help us survive longer in this sleepless state. We're also seeing fascinating behavioral adaptation. Many communities have developed systems to compensate for the cognitive deficits caused by sleep deprivation. For example, in several neighborhoods, people have implemented a buddy system for important tasks. No critical decisions are made by a single person. Instead, at least two people must agree on any significant action. This helps compensate for the impaired judgment and decision-making abilities we're all experiencing. Another interesting adaptation is the emergence of new social rhythms. While we can no longer follow the traditional sleep-wake cycle, many communities have established alternative patterns to structure their day. Some groups rotate through periods of high and low activity, with individuals taking turns to rest and engage in less demanding tasks, while others handle more critical responsibilities. These new rhythms aren't just about productivity. They're also helping people maintain a sense of time and routine, which is crucial for mental health in our constantly wakeful state. Many report that these structured patterns help them feel more grounded and less adrift in the endless waking out. We're also seeing remarkable adaptations in resource management. With traditional supply chains disrupted, communities have had to become incredibly creative and efficient with what they have. Urban farming has exploded, with every available space being turned into productive. From rooftops to abandoned lots, people are growing food in ways and places we never imagined before. In the Pilsen neighborhood, a group of residents has transformed an entire block into a thriving agricultural zone. They've implemented vertical gardening technique, using the walls of buildings to maximize growing space. They've also set up a sophisticated composting system, turning food waste into nutrient-rich soil. This initiative is now producing enough fresh vegetables to support not just their immediate community, but neighboring areas as well. Water management is another area where we're seeing innovative adaptation. In the Gold Coast area, a team of engineers and plumbers has set up an impressive rainwater collection and purification system. They've modified the drainage systems of several high-rise buildings to capture and store rainwater, which is then treated and distributed to the community. This system has significantly reduced their reliance on potentially contaminated water. Energy production and conservation have also seen remarkable affordable development. With the power grid unreliable at best, many communities have turned to alternative energy sources. Solar panels salvaged from abandoned buildings and vehicles are being repurposed into community power stations. In Bronzeville, a group of former electricians has even managed to construct small wind turbines using scavenged material. But perhaps the most inspiring adaptations we're seeing are in the realm of community organization and mutual aid. The breakdown of traditional societal structures has led to the emergence of new forms of cooperation and support. Take, for example, the knowledge-sharing initiatives that have sprung up across the city. With the internet down and formal education systems collapsed, communities have organized their own learning networks. Individuals with specialized knowledge or skills are holding regular teaching sessions, passing on crucial information about everything from first aid to mechanics to actuation. In Logan Square, a former librarian has set up a human library system. Instead of lending books, they coordinate a network of experts who can be borrowed for consultation on various topics. Need to know how to repair a bicycle? There's a person for that. Want to learn about herbal remedies? There's someone who can teach you. This system is not only preserving and spreading vital knowledge, but also creating new social bonds in the community. We're also seeing the emergence of new economic systems based on barter and mutual aid. With traditional currency largely meaningless, people are trading goods and services directly. More than that, many communities have developed sophisticated systems, credit and obligation that allow for more complex. In Hyde Park, they've implemented a system they call community credits. Individuals earn credits contributing goods or services to the community, which they can then use to purchase what they need. This system has created a flexible, needs-based economy that ensures resources are distributed where they're most needed. Another heartening development is the way communities are caring for their most vulnerable members. Despite the immense challenges we all face, many groups have made it a priority to protect and support those who might otherwise be left behind. In Uptown, a network of former social workers and healthcare professionals has organized a roving care team. They make regular rounds through the neighborhood, checking on elderly residents, individuals with disabilities, and anyone else who might need extra support. They provide medical care, deliver supplies, and offer companionship to those who might otherwise be isolated. The Rogers Park community has set up a system they call welfare pods. These are small groups of 5 to 10 individuals or families who commit to looking out. Each pod includes a mix of people with different skills and needs, creating a micro-community of mutual support. This system ensures that no one falls through the cracks and that resources and care are distributed equitably. We're also seeing incredible resilience in the face of the psychological toll or situation. Community mental health initiatives have sprung up across the city. In Wicker Park, a group of therapists and counselors offers daily group therapy sessions in a local. These sessions provide a space for people to share their experiences, process their emotions, and learn coping strategies. In Englewood, they've taken a different approach. Recognizing the power of creativity in maintaining mental health, they've organized a community arts program. Every day, residents gather to engage in various artistic activities, from painting to music to storytelling. This not only provides a much-needed outlet for expression, but also helps maintain a sense of culture and humanity in our changed world. Perhaps one of the most powerful signs of our resilience is the way communities are planning for the future. Despite the uncertainty of our situation, people are not just surviving day to day, but actively working to build a better world. In several neighborhoods, community councils have begun drafting plans for long-term sustainability. They're not just thinking about how to get through the next week or month, but how to create systems that can support their communities for years to come if necessary. These plans cover everything from sustainable food and water production to education to governance structure. The Austin neighborhood has gone as far as to start a time capsule. Residents are contributing items, writings, and recordings that document their experiences during this crisis. The idea is to preserve this history for future generations, whether that's in a world where we've overcome the sleep crisis or one where our current state has become the new norm. All of these adaptations and signs of resilience give us reason to hope. They show us that even in the face of an unprecedented crisis, humanity's ingenuity, compassion, and will to survive shine. We are not just enduring this crisis. We are finding ways to grow, to connect, and to build something new from the ashes of our old world. Of course, we must remain realistic. Our situation is still dire, and we face immense challenges. The physical toll of sleeplessness continues to mount, and we're all operating under extreme stress and cognitive impairment. But the adaptations and resilience we're seeing suggest that we have the capacity to face these challenges. To everyone listening, I encourage you to look for ways you can contribute to your community's resilience. What skills do you have that might be valuable in our new reality? How can you support those around you? What ideas do you have for adapting to our sleepless? Remember, every act of adaptation, every show of resilience is a victory. It's a statement that we will not be defeated by this crisis. We will find a way to survive, to maintain our humanity, and perhaps even to thrive in this new world. Stay strong, stay adaptable, and above all, stay human. We will get through through this together. This is Atlas, your companion in the endless day, always here, always awake, always amazed by the resilient the human spirit. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of constant change, we must be ready to adapt, to evolve, and to build a new future together. As we continue our broadcast, I want to address a topic that's been gaining traction in our sleepless world: conspiracy theories and misinformation. In times of crisis, it's natural for people to seek explanations and solutions, but it's crucial that we approach these ideas with critical thinking and skepticism. Let's start by discussing some of the most prevalent theories about the origin of our sleepless condition. One popular idea circulating is that this is a result of a secret government experiment gone wrong. Proponents of this theory claim that a clandestine agency was working on a way to enhance human productivity by reducing our need for sleep. According to this narrative, the experiment backfired, affecting not just the test subjects but spreading to the entire global population. While this theory might seem plausible on the surface, it fails to account for the simultaneous global onset of the condition. No single government or agency would have the reach or capability to affect the entire world's population at once without detection. Another widespread theory suggests that our sleeplessness is caused by some form of alien intervention. Those who believe this claim that extraterrestrial beings either preparing us for colonization or conducting a large-scale experiment on humanity. Some even go so far as to say that the aliens are harvesting our sleep for their own purpose. As fascinating as these ideas might be, there's simply no credible evidence to support. We need to remember that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and so far, none has been presented. There's also a growing belief that the sleep crisis is a natural phenomenon triggered by changes in the Earth's magnetic field or some form of cosmic radiation. While it's true that the Earth's magnetic field plays a role in many biological systems, including some aspects of sleep regulation, there's no scientific basis for the idea that a change in the magnetic field could suddenly and permanently eliminate our ability to sleep. One particularly dangerous conspiracy theory that's been gaining traction is the idea that certain groups of people are immune to the sleep crisis and are hiding this fact from the rest of us. This has led to witch hunts and violence against various minority groups and has been used to justify horrific act persecution. I cannot stress enough how baseless and harmful these accusations are. The sleep crisis affects all of us, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or any other fact. The only known exceptions are the small percentage of children we've discussed previously, and even they are not truly immune, just affected differently. Now, let's talk about some of the false cures and treatments that have been circulated. We've heard reports of people selling everything from special crystals to homemade elixir, claiming they can restore our ability to sleep. Some of these so-called cures are merely ineffective, but others can be actively dangerous. For example, there's a concoction being sold in some areas that supposedly induces a sleep state. Analysis of this substance has shown it to be a potent mix of sedatives and hallucinogens. Several people have died from using this cure, either from overdose or from accidents that occurred while they were in an altered state. Another troubling trend is the rise of sleep cults. These groups claim to have found a way to achieve sleep through meditation, ritual, or other spiritual practice. While meditation and relaxation techniques can certainly be beneficial for managing stress and fatigue, there's no evidence that they can actually restore true sleep. Unfortunately, some of these cults have turned dangerous, with leaders exploiting their followers' desperation for sleep. It's crucial that we approach all claims of cures or special knowledge with skepticism. Always ask for evidence. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And remember, if a genuine cure or treatment is discovered, it will be announced through official channels and made available to everyone, not sold secretly on the black market. Now, let's discuss how we can combat misinformation and conspiracy theories in our community. The first step is education. We need to promote critical thinking skills and scientific literacy. Even in our sleep-deprived state, we can learn to question our sources of information and look for verifiable evidence. One effective strategy is to create community fact-checking networks. In several neighborhoods, groups have formed to investigate and verify information before it spreads. These networks can quickly debunk false claims and provide accurate information to the community. It's also important to address the underlying fears and uncertainties that make people vulnerable to conspiracy theories and misinformation. By fostering open dialogue about our situation and acknowledging the very real challenges we face, we can reduce the appeal of simplistic or fantastical explanations. We should also be mindful of the role that stress and sleep deprivation play in making us more susceptible to false beliefs. In our current state, it's easier than ever for our minds to make false connections or jump to unwarranted conclusions. This is why it's so important to pause, take a breath, and critically examine our thoughts and the information we receive. Let's talk about some strategies for personal critical thinking. When you encounter a new claim or piece of information, ask yourself these questions. What's the source of this information? Is it a reliable source? What evidence is being presented to support the claim? Are there other possible explanations? How does this fit with what we already know about ourselves? situation. It's also helpful to seek out multiple sources of information and to be wary of claims that rely heavily on anonymous sources or secret knowledge. Remember, in a crisis like this, real breakthroughs and important information will be widely shared and verified by multiple reputable sources. Another important aspect of combating misinformation is to be careful about what we share with others. In our interconnected communities, information spreads quick. Before passing on a piece of news or a theory, take a moment to verify. If you're not sure about something, it's better to say, "I don't know," than to spread potentially false information. Now, I want to address a sensitive topic. What to do if someone you know has fallen deep into conspiracy theories or is spreading dangerous misinformation. It's important to approach the situation with empathy and patience. Remember, we're all under immense stress, and belief in these theories often comes from a place of fear and a desire to make sense of our chaotic. Start by listening. Try to understand why they find these ideas compelling. Often, addressing the underlying fears or concerns can be more effective than directly attacking the conspiracy theory. Share accurate information from reliable sources, but do so gently. It's rarely effective to aggressively challenge someone's belief. Instead, try to guide them towards critical thinking. If the person's beliefs are leading them to take dangerous actions or to put others at risk, it may be necessary to involve community leaders or mental health professionals. Many of our makeshift governance systems have procedures in place for dealing with individuals who pose a risk to community safety. Let's also discuss the role of hope in combating misinformation and conspiracy theory. Many of these false ideas spread because they offer simple solutions or clear villains in a situation that is complex and frightening. By fostering genuine hope based on the real progress we're making and the resilience we're showing, we can reduce the appeal of these harmful beliefs. Share stories of community cooperation and scientific advancement. Highlight the ways in which people are adapting and overcoming challenges. Remind each other that humanity has faced and overcome tremendous challenges before. This crisis is unprecedented, but so is the global effort to understand and solve. It's also important to maintain transparency about what we do and don't know. Admitting uncertainty can be uncomfortable, especially in a crisis, but it's crucial for maintaining trust and combating misinformation. When we're honest about the limits of our knowledge, we create space for genuine discovery and progress. Remember, in our sleepless world, our minds are our most precious resource and our greatest vulnerability. We must guard them carefully against false hope and dangerous, but we must also keep them open to new ideas and real possibilities. Stay critical, stay curious, and above all, stay human. We will get through this, not by clinging to comforting falsehood, but by facing our reality with courage and clarity. This is Atlas, your guide through the fog of misinformation. Always here, always awake, always committed to seeking and sharing the truth in our sleepless world. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of uncertainty, we must be our own fact check, own voice of reason, our own guardians of truth. As we continue our broadcast, I want to shift our focus to a topic that's becoming increasingly important in our sleepless world: practical skills for survival. With the breakdown of our usual systems and services, we're all having to learn new ways of doing. Today, we'll cover some essential skills that can help you not just survive, but thrive in our new reality. Let's start with basic mechanics for vehicle maintenance. In a world where we can't simply call for a tow truck or visit a repair shop, keeping our vehicles running has become a crucial skill. First and foremost, learn how to change a tire. It's a simple skill that can make a huge difference. Make sure you have a properly inflated spare tire, a jack, and a lug wrench in your vehicle at all times. Regular oil changes are still important, even in our sleepless state. Without proper lubrication, engines will quickly wear. If you can't find fresh oil, you can extend the life of your current oil by filter. A simple filter can be made using a clean cloth coffee filter. Battery maintenance is another key skill. Keep the terminals clean and free of corrosion. A mixture of baking soda and water can be used to clean off any built-up corrosion. If your battery is low and you can't find a working charger, you can try connecting it to a solar panel for a slow charge. For those of you dealing with older vehicles, learning to clean and adjust a carburetor can be invaluable. Many newer cars with fuel injection systems are becoming unreliable as their complex electronics fail. So older, simpler vehicles are becoming more valuable. Now, let's move on to the topic of DIY power generation. With the grid unreliable at best, generating your own power has become essential. Solar power is one of the most accessible options for many of you. If you can salvage solar panels, even damaged ones, you may be able to create a functional array. Remember, solar panels don't need to be in pristine condition to work. Even cracked or partially damaged panels can still generate some power. You'll need to connect the panels to a charge controller, then to a battery bank, and finally to an inverter to convert the DC power to AC for most household appliances. For those without access to solar panels, consider wind power. Small wind turbines can be constructed using salvaged motors from appliances like washing machines or fans. The blades can be made from sturdy plastic or even wood. While these won't generate as much power as commercial turbines, they can provide enough to charge batteries or run small appliances. Hydroelectric power is another option if you're near a flowing water source. A small water well connected to a generator can provide a steady source of power. Even a small stream can generate usable amounts of electricity with the right set. Regardless of your power generation method, proper battery storage is crucial. Deep cycle batteries, like those used in RVs, are ideal for storing power from renewable sources. If you can't find these, car batteries can be used, though they're not as well suited for deep discharge sites. Now, let's talk about urban farming technique. With traditional food supply chains disrupted, growing our own food has become necessary for long-term survival. Even in dense urban environments, there are ways to produce significant amounts of food. Vertical gardening is one of the most space-efficient methods. You can create vertical gardens on walls, fences, or specially constructed frames. Use hanging planters, stacked containers, or build a frame with multiple levels. This method is particularly good for growing leafy greens, herb, and small fruiting plants like cherry tomatoes or pepper. Rooftop gardening is another great option for urban environments. Flat roofs can be converted into productive growing space. However, be sure to check the structural integrity of the roof before adding the weight of soil and plant. Use lightweight growing mediums and consider hydroponic systems to reduce weight. For those with limited outdoor space, indoor growing systems can be very effective. Set up grow lights if you have electricity, or place plants near window. Microgreens are an excellent crop for indoor growth. They're nutrient dense and can be harvested in as little as a week after plant. Composting is a crucial skill for any urban farmer. It allows you to turn food scraps and organic waste into rich, fertile soil. Even in small spaces, you can set up a compact composting system using a bin or barrel. Layer green materials like food scrap with brown materials, dry leaves, or paper, and turn the pile regularly to aerate it. Rainwater collection is another important aspect of urban farming. Set up systems to catch and store rainwater from roof or other surfaces. This water can be used for irrigation, reducing your reliance on potentially contaminated municipal water sources. Now, let's discuss some general survival skills that everyone should try to master. First, fire starting. In a world where matches and lighters may become scarce, knowing how to start a fire using primitive methods can be life-saving. Practice using a fire bow or flint and steel. Even if you have matches, these skills can serve as a reliable backup. Water purification is another critical skill. Learn multiple methods: boiling, chemical treatment, solar disinfection, and filtration. Each method has its pros and cons, and being proficient in all of them gives you the most flexibility. Basic first aid is more important than ever. With medical services strained or non-existent in many areas, being able to treat injuries and illnesses yourself can be the difference between life and death. Focus on skills like wound cleaning and dressing, CPR, treating burns, and recognizing the signs of common illness. Foraging is becoming an increasingly valuable skill. Learn to identify edible plants in your area, but be cautious. Many plants have toxic lookalikes, and in our sleep-deprived state, it's easier than ever to make a dangerous mistake. Always be 100% certain of your identification before consuming any foraged plant. Knot tying is another often overlooked but incredibly useful skill. Knowing how to tie a variety of knots can help in countless situations, from securing shelter to climbing to making tools. Focus on versatile knots like the bowline, clove hitch, and taut line hitch. Let's also talk about the importance of tool making and maintenance. With manufacturing disrupted, being able to create and repair tools is crucial. Learn basic woodworking and metalworking skills. Even simple tools like knives, hammers, and saws can be made or repaired with the right knowledge. Shelter building is another key survival skill. In urban environments, this might involve securing and reinforcing existing structures rather than building from scratch. Learn how to board up windows effectively, reinforce doors, and create safe rooms within larger buildings. Now, I want to emphasize the importance of sharing and teaching these skills. If you're proficient in any of these areas, consider holding workshops or training sessions for your community. The more self-sufficient each individual becomes, the stronger our communities will be as a whole. Remember, in our sleepless world, our ability to adapt and learn new skills is one of our greatest assets. Every new skill you master not only increases your own chance of survival, but also makes you a more valuable member of your community. Don't be discouraged if you struggle with new skills at first. Our sleep-deprived brains make learning more challenging, but persistence pays off. Break tasks down into small, manageable steps. Practice regularly, even if it's just for a short period. Over time, you'll find that even complex skills become second nature. It's also important to document the skills and knowledge you acquire. In our current state, memory can be unreliable. Keep a journal or manual of the techniques you learn. This not only serves as a reference for you, but could become a valuable resource for others in your community or for future generations. As we navigate this crisis, these practical skills are our tools for carving out a new way of life. They connect us to our ancestors who lived without the conveniences of modern technology. They remind us of the incredible adaptability adaptability of the human species. And most importantly, they give us a sense of control and capability in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelmed. Stay curious, stay resourceful, and above all, stay human. We will get through this, not just by surviving, but by creating new ways of thriving in our change. This is Atlas, your guide to practical survival. Always here, always awake, always amazed by the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of constant challenges, we must be our own teachers, our own innovators, our own keepers of essential knowledge and skill. As we continue our broadcast, I want to turn our attention to a topic that gives us hope in these dark times: the ongoing search for a cure to our sleepless condition. While we've been focusing on survival and adaptation, teams of dedicated scientists and researchers have been working tirelessly to understand and potentially reverse this global insomnia crisis. Let's start with the latest updates from the scientific community. The University of Chicago research team, led by Dr. Emily Chun, has made some intriguing discoveries. They've been studying the brain activity of individuals experiencing what we've come to call micro-rest, those brief periods of reduced consciousness that some people have developed. Their findings suggest that during these states, the brain shows patterns similar to the early stages of non-REM sleep. This discovery has led to a new line of research focusing on inducing and extending these micro-rest states. The team is experimenting with a combination of electromagnetic stimulation and carefully calibrated sound waves to encourage the brain to enter these restful states more frequently and for longer periods. Meanwhile, at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, a team led by Dr. Marcus Rodriguez has been investigating the role of neurotransmitters in our sleepless condition. They've found significant alterations in the levels of key sleep-regulating chemicals in the brain, particularly GABA and melatonin. Their current work focuses on developing a way to restore the balance of these neurotransmitters. One promising avenue they're exploring involves using a modified virus to deliver GABA-producing genes directly to specific areas of the brain. While this approach is still in the early stages and has only been tested on animal models, it represents a novel way of addressing our sleep crisis at the molecular level. Over at Rush University Medical Center, researchers are taking a different approach. They are investigating the potential of hibernation-inducing triggers found in certain animals. The team, led by Dr. Seringwin, is particularly interested in the Arctic ground squirrel, which can lower its body temperature to below freezing and survive without brain damage. Dr. Nguyen's team is working on isolating the compounds that trigger this hibernation state, with the hope of developing a treatment that could induce a form of human hibernation. While we're a long way from being able to safely hibernate humans, this research could lead to new ways of giving our brains and bodies the rest they desperately need. Now, let's discuss some of the experimental treatments that are currently being tested. At several locations around the city, including the former soldier field, clinical trials are underway for various potential therapies. One of these trials is testing a combination of drugs that aim to mimic the restorative effects of this cocktail. Includes compounds that clear out the waste products that normally build up in our brains during waking up, as well as drugs that support memory consolidation and muscle. Early results have been mixed, with some participants reporting feeling more refreshed, while others experienced no effect or negative side effects. Another trial is exploring the use of sensory deprivation tanks in conjunction with binaural beats, a type of sound wave therapy. The idea is to create an environment as close to sleep as possible, allowing the brain to enter a deeply relaxed state. While this doesn't provide true sleep, some participants have reported feeling more clear-headed and emotionally balanced after sessions in the tanks. There's also ongoing research into the children who can still sleep, those rare individuals under the age of 12 who seem to be immune to the sleep crisis. A team at Lurie Children's Hospital, led by Dr. Aisha Patel, has been conducting extensive studies on these children with their parents' consent. Dr. Patel's team has identified several genetic markers that appear to be common among these sleep-capable children. They're now working on developing a gene therapy that could potentially activate these same genes in adults. However, this is a complex and time-consuming process, and it's important to manage expectations. Even if this approach proves successful, it would likely take years to develop into a viable treatment. It's crucial to note that all of these potential treatments are still in the experimental stage. None have been proven effective or safe for widespread use. I cannot stress enough how important it is not to attempt to replicate these treatments on your own. The researchers are working under carefully controlled conditions with extensive monitoring. Attempting these treatments without proper oversight could be extremely dangerous. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges facing the search for a cure. One of the biggest obstacles is the difficulty of conducting research in our current condition. Many scientists and researchers are themselves struggling with the effects of sleeplessness, which can impact their work. There's also the challenge of maintaining complex equipment and securing necessary supplies in our disrupted. Another significant challenge is the ethical considerations surrounding human trials. In normal circumstances, there are strict protocols governing medical research on humans. But in our desperate situation, there's immense pressure to speed up the process. Researchers and ethicists are grappling with how to balance the urgent need for a cure with the imperative to protect human rights and safety. There's also the question of distribution if a cure is found. With much of our infrastructure in disarray, ensuring equitable access to a potential cure would be a monumental task. Many communities are already discussing plans for fair distribution, but this remains a contentious issue. Despite these challenges, there are reasons for hope. The global nature of this crisis means that researchers around the world are focused on solving this one. While communication between different research centers is difficult, when breakthroughs do occur, they're shared as quickly as possible. We've also seen incredible ingenuity in overcoming resource limitations. Researchers have repurposed equipment, created makeshift labs, and found creative solutions to continue their work despite the challenges. The human drive to understand and overcome this crisis is truly awe-inspiring. For those of you wondering how you can help in the search for a cure, there are several ways to contribute. Many research centers are looking for volunteers for their study. If you're interested in participating, you can inquire at any of the major hospitals or research institutions in the city. Even if you're not able to directly participate in studies, you can still play a crucial role. Keeping detailed records of your experiences, particularly any changes in your condition or unusual phenomena you observe, can provide valuable data for research. Many communities have set up systems collecting and sharing this kind of information. It's also important to support the researchers and medical professionals in your community. If you have relevant skills or resources, consider offering your help. This could be anything from technical expertise to help maintain equipment, to simply assisting with day-to-day tasks to free up more time for research. As we continue to search for a cure, it's natural to feel a mix of hope and frustration. The progress can seem painfully slow, especially as we struggle with the daily reality of our sleepless existence. But it's important to remember that science often advances in small steps rather than giant. Each new discovery, each failed experiment that rules out a possibility, each small breakthrough brings us closer to understanding and potentially solving this crisis. The fact that we've made as much progress as we have, given the unprecedented nature of our situation and the challenges we face, is truly remarkable. While we wait and hope for a cure, it's crucial that we continue to support each other and maintain our resilience. The search for a solution is a marathon, not a sprint, and we need to pace ourselves for the long haul. Remember, too, that even if a cure is found, recovering from this experience will be a problem. Our world has been fundamentally changed by this crisis, and returning to normal won't happen overnight. The resilience and adaptability we've developed, the new skills we've learned, and the communities we've built will all be crucial in rebuilding our. In the meantime, we must continue to focus on survival and on maintaining our humanity. Every day that we endure, every kindness we show to one another, every problem we solve is a victory. These victories not only keep us going, but also buy time for the researchers working tirelessly to find a cure. Stay hopeful, stay supportive, and above all, stay human. We will get through this, whether through a miraculous cure or through our continued adaptation and perseverance. This is Atlas, your connection to the search for answers. Always here, always awake, always believing in the power of human ingenuity and determination. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of scientific uncertainty, we must be patient, we must be supportive, and we must never give up hope. As we continue our broadcast, I want to take a moment to delve into some philosophical reflections on our current situation. In the midst of our daily struggle for survival, it's easy to lose sight of the broader implications of what we're experiencing. Yet, contemplating these deeper questions can provide us with perspective and perhaps a sense of meaning in our sleepless. Let's start by considering the nature of consciousness without sleep. For as long as humans have existed, the rhythm of wakefulness and sleep has been a fundamental part of it. Now, for the first time in history, we're facing a world of constant wake. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself. In our sleepless state, many of us have reported experiences that blur the line between wakefulness and dreaming. Hallucinations, once rare occurrences, have become commonplace. Some philosophers and neuroscientists are beginning to wonder if our current state is revealing something fundamental about the nature of perception and reality. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a cognitive scientist at the University of Illinois at Chicago, has been studying these phenomena. She suggests that our experiences in this sleepless world might be showing us that the clear distinction we once drew between waking and dreaming states was always somewhat artificial. Our brains, she argues, are constantly creating our perception of reality, filling in gaps and making assumptions. Without the reset that sleep provides, we're becoming more aware of this ongoing process of reality construction. This leads us to question how much of what we perceive as reality is objectively real, and how much is a construction of our mind. In our current state, with our perceptions often unreliable, this question takes on new words. It challenges us to be more critical of our own experience and to rely more on collective verification of reality. Now, let's consider the role of dreams in human psychology. Throughout history, dreams have played a a crucial role in our cultures, our spirituality, and our understanding of ourselves. They've been seen as messages from the divine, windows into our subconscious, or simply the brain's way of processing information. With the loss of sleep, we've also lost the ability to dream in the traditional sense. Yet many people report dreamlike experiences during their waking hours. These waking dreams often feel more vivid and coherent than the fleeting dreams we used to experience. Dr. Michael Chun, a psychologist working with the sleep research team at Northwest, suggests that these waking dreams might be serving a similar psychological function to traditional dreams. They may be our brain's attempt to process information, work through emotional issues, and maintain psychological balance in the absence. This raises interesting questions about the nature and purpose of dreaming. Are dreams a necessary function of consciousness, something our brains will find a way to do even in the absence of sleep? Or are these waking dreams a new phenomenon, a way our minds adapting to our sleepless condition? Some people have reported that these waking dreams have given them new insights into their life or helped them solve problems they've been struggling. Others find them disorienting and distressing. As we continue to navigate this new reality, learning to understand and potentially harness these waking dreams could be crucial for our psychological well-being. Let's also reflect on how this crisis changes our understanding of humanity. Throughout history, we've often defined ourselves by ability to overcome natural issues. We've conquered the air with flight, explored the depths of the oceans, and even ventured into space. Now, we're facing a challenge that strikes at one of our most basic biological needs. In many ways, this crisis has stripped away many of the constructs of our civilization, revealing both the fragility and the resilience of our species. We've seen social structures crumble, but we've also witnessed incredible acts of compassion and cooperation. It's forcing us to reconsider what truly matters, what it means to be human when so much of what we took for granted has been taken away. Dr. Sarah Goldstein, a philosopher and ethicist at DePaul University, argues that this crisis is providing us with a unique opportunity to rebuild our society in a more intentional way. We're being forced to reconsider everything, she says: our economic systems, our social structures, our relationship with the environment. As we adapt to this new reality, we have the chance to deliberately choose what kind of world we create. This crisis has also challenged our notions of time. Without the natural rhythm of day and night, wake and sleep, our perception of time has become distorted. Many people report feeling as though they're living in an eternal present, with past and future becoming increasingly abstract concepts. This shift in our temporal experience raises questions about how we structure our lives and our society. Our old ways of organizing time around work days and weekends, around sleep cycles and meal times, no longer apply. How do we create new rhythms and structures to give shape to our existence in the sleepless? Some communities have started experimenting with new ways of organizing time. They've created artificial cycles of activity and rest, or developed new calendars based on community events rather than traditional days and weeks. These efforts remind us that time, in many ways, is a social construct and one that we have the power to reshape. Now, let's consider the ethical implications of current situation. The sleep crisis has created new moral dilemmas that we're all grappling. How do we fairly distribute resources when we're all in a constant state of need? How do we balance individual rights with community survival? How do we make decisions about medical research and treatment when the stakes are so high and time is so short? These questions don't have easy answers, but wrestling with them is crucial. Our responses to these ethical challenges will shape the kind of society we become. Will we emerge from this crisis more compassionate and cooperative, or more selfish and divided? Dr. James Turner, an ethicist working with the Emergency Council, emphasizes the importance of maintaining our moral compass even in the face of extreme adversity. It's in times of crisis that our values are truly tested, he said. The decisions we make now, when we're pushed to our limit, will define who we are as individuals and as a society. One particularly challenging ethical issue is how we treat those who are struggling the most with sleeplessness. Some individuals, whether due to age, pre-existing conditions, or other factors, are deteriorating more quickly than others. How do we balance the need to protect and care for these vulnerable individuals with the need to maintain the functioning of community? Some argue for dedicating significant resources to caring for those who are struggling most, seeing it as a moral imperative and a testament to our humanity. Others argue that we need to focus our limited resources on those who are best able to contribute to our collective survival. This debate gets to the heart of how we value human life and what we believe the purpose of our society should be. Another ethical consideration is our treatment of the children who can still sleep. While we've discussed the practical aspects of protecting these children before, there's also a philosophical dimension to consider. These children represent a link to our former way of life and potentially hold the key to understanding and overcoming our condition. But they're also individuals with their own rights and needs. How do we balance the potential benefit to society of studying these children with their right to autonomy and normalcy? Is it ethical to place the burden of our salvation on their shoulders? These These are difficult questions that challenge our notions of individual rights versus collective need. As we navigate these philosophical and ethical quandaries, it's important to remember that there are no easy answers. Our goal should not be to find perfect solutions, but to engage in thoughtful, compassionate discourse. By grappling with these big questions, we maintain our humanity and our hope for the future. In many ways, this crisis has become a crucible for the human spirit. It's testing not just our physical endurance, but our mental resilience, our ethical principles, and our understanding of what it means to be human. The way we respond to these challenges will shape not just our immediate future, but the long-term course of human civilization. As we face this ongoing crisis, I encourage all of you to take time to reflect on these deeper questions. Discuss them with your community. Engage in philosophical debates. Write down your thoughts and experience. By doing so, we're not just passing the time, we're actively shaping our understanding of this new world and place it. Remember, even in our sleepless state, our capacity for thought, for ethical reasoning, for hope, and for growth remain. In fact, these qualities may be more important now than ever before. They are what separate us from mere survival, what allow us to maintain our humanity in the face of unprecedented challenges. Stay thoughtful, stay ethical, and above all, stay human. We will get through this, not just by surviving physically, but by growing philosophically and ethically. This is Atlas, your companion in contemplation, always here, always awake, always pondering the deeper meanings of shared experience. Keep listening for more updates, and remember, in this world of constant wakefulness, we must be our own philosophers, our own ethicists, our own seekers of meaning in the face of the unknown. As we approach the final segment of our broadcast, I want to turn our attention to the future. We've spent much of our time discussing survival strategies, current challenges, and the ongoing search for a cure. But now, let's look ahead and consider what the long-term scenarios might be for human survival in this sleepless. First, let's consider the possibility that we don't find a cure or solution to our sleepless condition. While this is a daunting prospect, it's one we must confront. If our inability to sleep becomes a permanent state, how might humanity adapt over the long term? Dr. Elena Martinez, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Chicago, has been studying this question. She suggests that if our sleepless state persists for generations, we might see significant evolutionary changes in human physiology and neurology. Our bodies and brains might adapt to function without sleep, developing new mechanisms for rest and regeneration. This could lead to a very different human species. We might see changes in our metabolic processes, our cognitive functions, even our lifespan. Dr. Martinez hypothesizes that we could evolve to have more efficient cellular repair mechanisms, allowing our bodies to heal and regenerate without the need for sleep. However, this kind of evolutionary adaptation would take many generations. In the shorter term, we'd likely see cultural and technological adaptation. We might develop new social structures to accommodate our sleepless state, new technologies to support our constantly active minds. And another long-term scenario to consider is one where we find a partial solution rather than a complete cure. Perhaps we develop treatments that allow for short periods of sleep-like rest, or find ways to mimic some of the restorative functions of sleep while we remain conscious. In this scenario, we might see a future where sleep becomes more like a medical treatment, periodic sessions in specialized facilities that provide some of the benefits. This could lead to significant social change. Would these sleep treatments be equally available to everyone? How would we organize our society around these periodic rest periods? Now, let's consider the more hopeful scenario where we do find a complete cure for our sleepless condition. Even in this best-case scenario, the road to recovery would be long and complex. Dr. Michael Chun, a psychologist specializing in trauma, warns that the psychological impact of this crisis will linger long after a cure is found. We're all experiencing a form of collective trauma, he explains. Returning to normal sleep patterns will be a relief, but it won't immediately erase the stress and anxiety we've endured. We'd likely see a period of adjustment as our bodies and minds relearn how to sleep properly. There might be widespread sleep disorders, nightmares, and other psychological issues to contend with. Our society would need to rebuild its rhythms and structures around the sleep-wake cycle that we once took for granted. There's also the question of how our experiences during this crisis might change our relationship with sleep in the long term. Would we value sleep more, knowing what it's like to live without it, or would some people be reluctant to sleep, fearing a return to our current sleepless state? Regardless of which scenario unfolds, it's clear that our future will be shaped by the decisions we make and the actions we take now. That's why it's crucial that we start preparing for these potential futures today. One key aspect of this preparation is preserving knowledge. In our current state, with our memories unreliable and our focus constantly challenged, there's a risk of losing crucial information and skill. We need to ensure that the knowledge we have as a society and the discoveries we make during this crisis are recorded and preserved for future generations. Many communities have already started initiatives to address this. In the Loop, a group of librarians and educators have established what they're calling a living library library. This project involves recording oral histories, documenting survival techniques, and preserving scientific and cultural knowledge. Similarly, in Hyde Park, the University of Chicago has launched a massive archiving project. They're collecting data on our experiences during this crisis, preserving scientific research, and documenting the social and cultural changes we're undergoing. This information could be invaluable not just for our own recovery, but for future generations trying to understand this period in human history. Another crucial aspect of preparing for the future is maintaining and developing our technological capability. While much of our advanced technology has become unreliable or unusable in our current state, preserving this knowledge and continuing to innovate where we can is vital for our long-term survival and recovery. In the Illinois Institute of Technology, a team of engineers and computer scientists are working on developing more robust, low-power computing systems that can function reliably even in our sleepless state. They're also working on ways to preserve our digital data, ensuring that the vast stores of information in our computers and servers aren't lost. We also need to consider how to preserve and protect our infrastructure for the future. Much of our city's infrastructure is deteriorating without regular maintenance. We need to think about how to protect key structures and systems so that they can be restored and utilized when we recover or adapt to our new reality. The Army Corps of Engineers, working with local construction firms, has been assessing critical infrastructure and developing plans for long-term preservation. They're focusing on power plants, water treatment facilities, and major bridges and roads. Their work could be crucial in ensuring that we have a functioning urban environment to return to in the future. Now, let's talk about the importance of maintaining hope and vision for the future. In our daily struggle for survival, it's easy to lose sight of long-term goals, but having a vision of the future we want to create can provide crucial motivation and direction. Many communities have started holding regular future planning sessions. These meetings aren't just about immediate survival needs, but about imagining and planning for the society they want to build. These discussions cover everything from governance structures to education systems to cultural preservation. In Pilsen, for example, the community has developed a detailed plan for how they want their neighborhood to function once the crisis is over. They've designed new public spaces, planned for sustainable urban farming, and even drafted a new local constitution. While some of these plans may never come to fruition, the process of creating them has given the community a sense of purpose and hope. We should also consider the global implications of crisis and recovery. How will our experiences change international relations? Will we see a more unified world brought together by our shared struggle, or will the breakdown of global systems lead to a more fragmented isolationist? Some political theorists, like Dr. Sarah Goldstein at DePaul University, argue that this crisis could lead to a new era of international cooperation. We've seen that global challenges require global solutions, she said. This experience could be the catalyst for creating more effective international institutions and agreements. Others worry that the trauma of this experience might lead to more closed, insular societies. They argue that the breakdown of global systems during the crisis might make countries more reluctant to rely on international cooperation in the future. As we look to the future, we must also consider the ethical implications of our potential recovery or adaptation. How do we ensure that any cure or adaptation strategy is distributed fairly? How do we balance the needs of individuals with the needs of society as a whole? These are questions we need to start grappling with now so that we're prepared to make ethical decisions when the time comes. Many ethicists and community leaders are already working on framework for ethical decision-making in various future scenarios. It's also important to consider how we'll preserve the positive aspects of our adaptation to this crisis. In our sleepless state, we've developed new forms of community, new skills, and new ways of problem solving. How can we ensure that these positive developments aren't lost if we return to our pre-crisis state? Many argue that we should view this crisis not just as a catastrophe to be overcome, but as an opportunity to reshape our society for the better. The resilience, creativity, and cooperation we've developed could be the foundation for a more equitable, sustainable world. As we face these potential futures, it's crucial that we remain adaptable and open-minded. The world we're moving towards may be very different from the one we left behind, and very different from what we can imagine. Our ability to adapt, to learn, and to work together will be our greatest assets. Remember, every day that we survive, every challenge we overcome, brings us one step closer to that future. Whether it's a future where we've overcome our sleepless condition, or one where we've adapted to it, it's a future we're building together with every choice and every action. Stay hopeful, stay prepared, and above all, stay human. We will face this future, whatever it may be, together. This is Atlas, your companion on this journey into the unknown. Always here, always awake, always looking ahead to the possibilities that await us. Keep listening, keep thinking, keep planning, and remember, in this world of constant change, we must be the architects of our own future, the shapers of our own destiny, the authors of the next chapter in the human story.